from pretty much from the start, it seems like this has been one of the trendy upset picks is picking Vermont over Arkansas. I mean, just as someone intimately familiar with the Vermont team, why do you think that is?
I think it's because of what people look for in an upset, and they look for traits that Vermont has. They play really good defense, they make a lot of threes, and they have a lot of experience, and they don't turn the ball over. That checks a lot of boxes when you're looking for traits in an upset team. So I think it's more about that than anything to do with Arkansas, because I think if Arkansas is not matched up with somebody like Vermont, they would probably be a real trendy team to make a deep run as a 3, or in this case, a 4 seed. And so I think it's two teams that really intrigue a lot of people. But in Vermont's case, it's just about the traits that they bring. And everybody sees the experience. It immediately jumps out that they start 5 seniors and they bring 2 more seniors off the bench. So it immediately jumps out just how old they are. According to Ken Pom, it's the 4th most experienced team in the country, the top defensive rebounding team in the country, according to defensive rebounding rate. And so just because so many of those kind of qualities that people are looking for, Vermont happens to have, I think it kind of has built itself into this really trendy pick. In addition to when people have watched Vermont recently, they won all 3 tournament games in the America East by at least 30, winning the conference championship by 40. That'll stand out to a lot of people. If you haven't even watched Vermont all year or are unfamiliar with what this team does well, you look at what they've done recently, they've just blown people out. So that, I think, all kind of accumulates into a pick that has become very, very popular.
With limited outside of Ben, it sounds like really like playing time in NCAA tournament environment. Just how do you see this team kind of handling, I mean, the brightest of spotlights?
I think they'll be okay. It's a group without that NCAA tournament experience, but they have experience in bright lights in big games, from times where Finn Sullivan, the San Diego transfer, played against Gonzaga multiple times in his career there and played well. You have the likes of Robin Duncan, who's the backup point guard off the bench. His 2 older brothers, both were Vermont Catamounts, both played in big NCAA tournament games. Robin was either on the bench in the 2019 tournament, or he was in the stands watching those games. So he's been around the program for a really long time. And then you look at the likes of Isaiah Powell, who's now in his 2nd year in the starting lineup, just kind of the one of a couple glue guys on this team. I don't see the bright lights battling him. He played his best earlier this year in the big non-conference games against the likes of Maryland. And then there's the team leader, Justin Mazzulla, who's the captain. He's the guy who has come in and really brought the locker room together. Mazzulla, I think, will be one of the guys who keeps the team really focused. He is a really fun guy to be around, but at the same time, he acts as kind of a coach on the floor, as the main glue guy whose numbers don't really show the true value that he brings. So he'll be the guy that is able to kind of bring them in and focus the group together. I don't think it'll be the bright lights have this team come out playing poorly. If it is an Arkansas win, it will be because Arkansas is the better team, not because Vermont comes out nervous or comes out playing tight.
And offensively, the kind of basic scouting report from everyone seems to be slowing it down, kind of limiting the number of possessions in a game, and then just shooting well when they do it. Does that pretty much hold true?
Mostly. It's a misconception that they want to play slow. Their tempo, if you look at Ken Pom, is a slow tempo and a slow pace. At their best, they're playing quick and they're getting some transition points. And they're taking advantage of those opportunities when other teams give them. But the key to their offense is valuing the ball. So they are such an experienced group that they are very well coached as to when to take advantage of those transition chances versus we don't have the look we want. We're not going to force anything, back it out, run our half court set. And then they're also very comfortable late in the shot clock, which is where a lot of their 3-point numbers come into play. They are going to generate a good look in the most times in the half court. It's what's made them a very efficient offense because they do want to play with tempo and with pace and play in a very quick rhythm in their offensive sets. And it's just an offense that is comfortable playing in any portion of the shot clock. And so it's a misconception that they want to play slow. It's more about how they value the ball and value getting the best look possible in any given possession. And that has made them dangerous throughout the course of the year. If you look at their early season offensive numbers, this was an ugly offensive team in the non-conference. They weren't making threes. They couldn't really find their rhythm and their tempo that they were trying to play with. And even though they were taking care of the ball, they were taking a lot of bad shots. And then when they were getting open looks, they just weren't making them. Recently, they've been making their open looks, and they've been making sure to take the right shot in possessions. I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff on getting these guys schooled up and how they want their offense to run.
That's kind of where I was going to go next. Just the difference between the non-conference and the conference. I mean, is that competition level, or is the team kind of, aging into it, getting coached up, a little mix of both?
Little of everything. It's obvious the America East was in a down season this year. There was no true number 2 team. Some of the really competitive teams had some injuries, etc. So the America East had a down year, to say the least. But Vermont proved that they were clearly the best team, ahead above everyone else in the America East all year long. Some of that turnaround was sparked with the emergence of Aaron Deloney, who brought a real level of confidence. The America East 6th man of the year. He came off the bench. Since the beginning of conference play, Deloney is this team's 3rd leading scorer. He really brings a level of confidence and swagger to the offense that they didn't have in the non-conference, because he was really out of the rotation in times. And so he was able to fight his way into the rotation, brought a real level of confidence. Some of the other guys, namely Finn Sullivan, Justin Mazzulla, Nick Fiorillo, really started hitting their shots. And the coaches were able to find the right rotation. And so they settled on this kind of 8-9 man rotation. They found a good rhythm with the minutes they were giving guys. And so it was really the accumulation of a lot of things clicking at the right time, as well as playing weaker competition, really helped them find their rhythm. So it was kind of all those things at the same time, kind of at the end of December, early January, finally just all kind of locking into piece for this group.
You've said at this point pretty much everyone on the roster, I think, name-wise, but just for Arkansas fans, if there's one guy that they've got to know and watch out for on this team, who is it?
It's hard to give you just one, because the 2 stars is truly a dynamic duo. Ben Shungu and Ryan Davis combined for 33 points a game. Davis is the guy that's going to get a lot of the headlines because he's the stretch 5, shoots over 40% from 3, 2-time conference player of the year. But Davis will tell you, and he made a big push at this towards the end of the year. He wanted the America East Award to be a co-player of the year award this year between him and Shungu. So those are the 2 guys that are going to be most involved in the offense. Shungu is also a former all-conference defensive player of the year in the America East. So he's going to be a guy on the defensive end that's a great on-ball defender, while Davis doesn't struggle in the post, but defense isn't his forte. Those 2 on the offensive end do a lot of great things together. From Davis, he can go down low, go one-on-one with just about any post defender, although Jalen Williams obviously poses a very intriguing matchup. Can't wait to watch those 2. But Davis and Shungu also in the high pick and roll. They go with the middle ball screen quite a bit. And they also love 3-man sides, where they have Davis kind of with the ball at the top of the key, Shungu playing off the ball, and then Davis is the facilitator, making the passes and the decision-making to try to get Benny open. Those 2 are really going to be the focal points of the offense. There's a lot of other guys that if Vermont is able to get a 3rd scorer, they are almost unbeatable. At least this year, when they get 3 guys in double figures, they are almost impossible to beat. The question is, which of those other guys can maybe step up alongside of Davis and Shungu? And what happens if the great defensive team that is Arkansas is able to find a way to limit Ryan or Benny? If that happens, does that mean it's going to be a defensive battle and Vermont only has 1 scorer that day? Or will it be the bench unit and those role players who step up? That, to me, is where this game gets decided. If Arkansas is able to limit Ryan or Benny, does Vermont get any help from the role players that have proven to be reliable this year? If Arkansas is able to limit those role players as well as Shungu or Davis, it's going to be tough for the Catamounts to pull off the upset, no doubt.
You mentioned that Davis-Williams matchup down low. When Arkansas's got the ball, I mean, Jalen Williams has kind of proven he can play all over the court. I mean, how does Davis match up defensively, you think, with Jalen?
He is a really improved defender. He's by no means an all-conference defensive player, but he is a smart defender. His positioning is very good. He's a little bit under-athletic, not quite as athletic as a Jalen Williams, probably not quite as strong, but he'll be able to battle down low. More often than not, he knows how to avoid foul trouble. And so I think that Vermont is comfortable with him. If Williams does start getting going, especially in the post, they're going to be quick to double, if I had to guess. I would expect to see double teams because they are confident in the rest of their defense. They feel like they have an average defender at worst in Davis, and then 4 really good defenders on the floor at all times. This is a team that's given up less than 60 points 6 of their last 7 games. It's 2 very good defensive teams. Williams definitely could cause trouble, though, for Davis. But more often than not this year, it's been guards that have hurt Vermont. It's been 1 or 2 guards that have been able to get free, especially from beyond the arc. That's been the area that, if you hurt Vermont, has been the area where you can really get after them on the offensive end. They are at times a little bit weak defending the 3-point line. Now, that's not every game, but we've seen teams get hot against them. And so that is an area where I think it's a reason why, again, back to your initial question, an area where some teams or some people might be picking Vermont, because Arkansas does struggle to make jump shots at times from my early research here. And so that is a bit of an advantage for Vermont. If they can limit Arkansas to tough contested twos, that fits right into Vermont's hands. But that all changes if Williams dominates down low in the post early. I'm fascinated with this as well because Vermont has really 3 or 4 excellent on-ball defenders. The question is, how do they choose the matchup with Note? Finn Sullivan, the guy I mentioned earlier who transferred from San Diego, is a 6'5" point guard, ultra quick, ultra long. Not the strongest guy in the world, but he's very disruptive. Maybe they throw him at Note, try to use his length to limit him as well as his quickness. Then there's Ben Shungu, one of the stars on the offensive end, but he's also a former America East Defensive Player of the Year. Normally this season, they've tried to avoid putting Shungu on the opposing team's best scoring guard to give him a bit of a break on the defensive end, if you know what I mean, just to give him a touch of a breather or at least make sure his responsibilities are less on that end of the floor. But in an NCAA tournament game, that might go out the window. And it might be Benny, the 6th-year senior South Burlington native, who says, look, I'm taking JD Note. This is my matchup. I want him. That's possible. But then the other potential matchup that I find interesting is Justin Mazzulla. He's not very quick. He's pretty strong and physical. And more than anything, he will win the mental matchup. If I had to bet, he's going to be the smartest basketball player on the floor come Thursday. Mazzulla earlier this year really gave AJ Green some fits. He has shut down guards who are quicker and stronger than him pretty much all season because he is that much ahead of teams mentally. He knows what play you're running. He knows exactly what you're trying to do every possession, and he knows how to position his body to stop it. It's interesting, though, because I can guarantee you Note is quicker, he's stronger, and he's probably the most talented scorer that Vermont has seen this season. But Vermont has a group of different guys they could put on him. It's going to be very interesting to see how they try those different matchups. And honestly, I've watched Note enough to know he might just score on all 3 of them. He is that talented of a scorer, but Vermont does have some different guys they can try on Note that I think have the chances to maybe give him at least a bit of some fits, enough to keep Vermont in the game early, just take him out of his rhythm enough in a tournament game. If you can do that against a star guy early, if you're the underdog, that is a good thing for you come the second half of the game.